Good afternoon, friends, family, loved ones, enemies, contributors, distractors. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. And this week's show is called Uncle Tom Chronicles. And this is going to be a short show. Um, Still feeling a little bit under the weather. Excuse me. So I'm going to try to get to this show without hacking up a lung or anything like that. But this, I think, is a needed conversation that I want to have. And in light of a lot of things that's been happening recently and a lot of conversations that I have engaged in or have witnessed. And it seems like there has been a campaign um, by those that in the Black community that we would uh, consider Uncle Toms. This is who I'm placing that the reasoning on for this. I think that it is something that has been intentionally done over the years, trying to cloud information or misrepresent information and 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 throw people off track. And the information that I'm talking about is mainly about who's a Uncle Tom and what's an Uncle Tom and being misunderstood, Uncle Tom character being misunderstood. And so what do we mean when we call someone an Uncle Tom in the Black community? This is not something that another group says, well, hey, you're Uncle Tom, because really we don't look at other people or outsiders as being able to label someone within our community a Uncle Tom or not. They may be correct in doing so. But what do we mean when we say someone is an Uncle Tom or they're being an Uncle Tom? Or who do we consider Uncle Toms? Because we in the Black community, we have a lot of different Uncle Tom type labels. We have people that we say they're Sambos and step and fetches, and we have house Negroes. um, but Uncle Tom seems to hit home a lot of times. And I think it's the personnel or the people, the type of person that we would label an Uncle Tom that makes this a complex conversation or has made it a complex conversation as of late. So who do we consider Uncle Toms in our community? And I think that when we finish this conversation, I think it'll be more things will come into light, and a lot of the conversations that's being had will come into light. So I'm gonna get into the Uncle Tom thing, and I'm gonna get into a conversation that I actually had with an individual a couple of weeks ago that could have went wrong because the guy came on social media and he said some things about people not knowing what an Uncle Tom is and like saying basically that Black people using the word Uncle Tom, they're ignorant. And I kind of came back with a conversation because I'm saying the opposite. I hear this rhetoric about who Uncle Tom was, and Uncle Tom was not a bad person or whatever, or who he was meant to be based upon. And my thing, my reply or retort was is ignorant of people who haven't read the book. The book being Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And I can tell who has read this book and who hasn't. And when people are given commentary or given their opinion about the character whose namesake is on the book. And I can tell when people are just looking at internet um, articles or looking at videos on someone giving an explanation about who Uncle Tom was. And we have something kind of odd in the Black community. This thing that goes on. It's a lot of these type of people, Uncle Tom type people, that think they know better than the masses of the Black community. and not just the masses now, but they think they know better than historical masses of the black community. And they tend to try to put themselves above us as if, hey, we're backwards, or this is the right way and this is what we've been doing wrong, and misinterpreting things. And they think that they could come, hey, did you know that y'all don't know that many of us didn't know what they were talking about, and they shouldn't have been saying this, and this is what this is and that was, and whatnot. And you're discrediting the black community when you do that. It's to me, it's similar when you think you have a easy explanation, or able to solve our problems in the black community with just something so simplex, and say, well, if y'all wanted to, if you want to stop crime in the black community, do this, or you want to stop you know unemployment in the black community, just do this, or if you want to stop problems in the black community, just do this thing, as if you have the answer that many of our leaders for generations have been fighting against and fighting for. And all of a sudden, whether you in the black community, outside of the black community, you're not a black person. And I really get irked when I hear people outside of the black community try to come up with simple solutions that's supposedly solving all of our problems. To me, it's condescending to our leaders that have been fighting, and you're not understanding the things that we have been fighting for decades, and how those things have changed. So that really irks me when I hear outsiders do it, let alone people in our community. They just act like there's a simple solution, that somehow all of our leaders that have dedicated their lives in fighting these situations and trying to correct these issues have died doing. And all of a sudden, here you come along and you just have this simple little solution that you think is going to work. And I think it's a contingency of black people that's out here that think in the same manner when they talk about things that we do wrong, or that we have an ideal about, and all of a sudden they want to come along and, well, they had it wrong all along. They just have this complex that they think that they could just come and say, well, the crazy part about it is black people don't even know this, that, and the other. And then they try to go on and talk about what they know. And then when I hear their commentary, especially because this is something that I can tell if people have read the book or not, if you're going to bother to read, or if you're going to listen to something online, um, a video, or somebody telling you what this person wrote about, or who this person really was, and things like that. So I had this conversation. I told him, the guy said something about, black people is basically silly, how black people think that they can use that word and don't know what it's about, or something like that. And I kind of retorted, it's silly how people that don't read, or that think that being based on something means that that's what that person actually is. And this is what I'm going to submit to you. I'm going to submit my argument against those people who think that Uncle Tom is not a bad or derogatory person, or shouldn't be a derogatory character in the black community. I'm going to base my argument on this conversation right now. So what Uncle Tom in Harriet Beecher Stowe's book, he was a older slave. And I'm going to paint a picture about the time frame that Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote her book. Now, in 1849, there was an autobiography of a slave named Josiah Henson. And this is the subject that everyone wants to talk about: Josiah Henson, Josiah Henson. This is who Uncle Tom was. And Josiah Henson was a slave that gained his freedom. He ran up into Canada. He was trying to buy his own freedom from his slave master. And what was supposedly happen, it was a set price. Josiah came up with the price, and the slave owner changed the price and whatnot. Anyway, long story short with Josiah Henson, he was an upstanding citizen, Canadian citizen. Once he escaped the United States and went up to Canada, and he has all these things, grandiose things about his character and who he was, a good religious, pious person, and all this whatnot. His autobiography that he wrote about his own life and struggles and gaining of freedom was in 1849. In 1850, there was something called the Freedom Act, something like that. The About what was happening when slaves was running up north. There was the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. If slaves escaped from the South in America to the North, where freedom to get freedom, the South wanted their property back. And it's almost like you're aiding and abetting, you know, because this person wasn't up north. This is my property. If he came back down south, I would still own him. So what was happening? They passed the act and it's called the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Josiah Henson went to Canada, so he was going to be free regardless. The slaves that was escaping up north, the South was wanting their property back. And if you were helping and aiding and abetting and like a fugitive from the law. So Harriet Harriet was an abolitionist. She was beckoning, she was against, they was against slavery and the dehumanization of slaves. And what she did, she tried to create a book. She read Josiah Henson's book. And so she created her own book in 1852, 3 years after his book was released. And she created her fictional situation and fictional characters. And her main character, an old slave, was based on Josiah Henson and based upon. I'm gonna use that word a lot. It's not the same person. Um, but that's who she based the character on when she was writing the book. That was her inspiration. I say like that. Her inspiration for Uncle Tom was Josiah Henson. So her being an abolitionist, she wanted to humanize the slaves because in America, enable they enabled their atrocities to be performed on slaves, or the mindset of the rest of the world that even thought that it was in the North that wanted to help the slaves. What was happening in the South, they were painting a picture of the slaves as not human. They were not fully human. Don't have compassion for them. She was trying to do the opposite because the minstrel shows, all these things like this, they were painting a picture of the Negroes or the slaves as being almost sometimes animalistic. She wanted to create something to show them that the slaves had a conscience and had emotions and things like that. So she created a story about the slaves and about one slave in particular, Uncle Tom, and the things that he did. Now, in her book, Uncle Tom did something that was noble. And in the book, he ended up being killed by a brutal slave master because he didn't give up information about two runaway slave girls. So he basically sacrificed himself. So yeah, in that manner, it seemed like, well, why would that be something detrimental? Why would they calling someone an Uncle Tom, someone that sacrificed his life? Um, why would that be something detrimental? Well, once I purchased the book, I started reading the book. And I was telling the guy, I got into it with it online. I was telling him about when you don't read something, you don't understand. And so he kind of went back and forth. But regardless of how he feels about what I'm saying, is basically it stands. I stand on that. You don't understand because so what I did was I was trying to explain to him, if you read the book, the first chapter of the book would tell you why someone calling you Uncle Tom is a slap in the face. Now, and I'm gonna read part of what I'm talking about. So what I'm gonna set the stage. This is the first chapter of the book. It's about one slave master, Uncle Tom slave master, trying to make a sale to another gentleman. You have Mr. Shelby and I believe Mr. Haley. And I'm just going to read this right a little bit, and I bear with me. And this will give you an understanding of why being an Uncle Tom is something that you don't want to be in the black community. It's not Josiah Henson. Josiah Henson escaped and went to Canada. So I'm gonna start reading. It says his companion, Mr. Shelby, had an appearance of a gentleman and arraignments of the house and a general air of housekeeping indicated easy and even opulent circumstances. As we before stated, the two were in the midst of an earnest conversation, and it says that this is the way I should arrange the matter, said Mr. Shelby. I can't make trade that way. I positively can't, Mr. Shelby, said the other, holding up his glass of wine between his eye and the light. Why, the fact is, Mr. Haley, um, Tom is an uncommon fellow. He is certainly worth the sum anywhere. Steady, honest, capable, manages my whole farm like a clock. So he's telling the guy that Tom is the manager of the plantation for him. That he does everything for him on the plantation. And the guy, and it says, so you mean honest as niggers go? Said Haley, helping himself to a glass of brandy. No, I mean, really, Tom is a good, steady, sensible, pious fellow. He got religion at a camp meeting 4 years ago, and I believe he really did get it. I've trusted him since then with everything I have, money, house, horses, and let him come and go around the country. And I always found him true and square in everything. So he's talking about how trustworthy, how much trust he has in Tom, and how he could let Tom basically go wherever he wants. Um, and he trusts him to come back. So the guy is questioning him, like, you saying like this person, you can trust him like that? He's saying yes. He said he's good, sensible, pious. He said some folks don't believe there's pious niggers, Shelby. This is Mr. Haley said this. He said with a candid flourish of his hand, but I do. I had a fellow now in this year last lot I took to New Orleans. It was a good as a meeting. Now we really do hear. Now see, they're talking in like this broken English. The critter pray. He said like he's calling Tom a critter. He heard him pray, and he was quite gentle and quite quiet. Like he said, he fetched me some good too. He said I bought him cheap of a man that was obliged to sell him out. And I realized 600 on him. Like he's saying, I spent $600 on him. And I consider religion a valuable thing in a nigger. He said, when he is a genuine article. And he said, make no mistake, basically. He said, well, Tom got the real article. If ever a fella had, he said, rejoined the other. Why, last fall, he said, I let him go to Cincinnati alone. Cincinnati is up north. They're in Kentucky. He said, I let him go to Cincinnati alone to do business for me. Bring home $500, Tom, says I to him. I trust you because I think you're a Christian and I know you wouldn't cheat. He said, Tom comes back, sure enough, as I knew he would. Some low fellows, they say they say to him, "Tom, why didn't you make tracks to Canada?" And Tom says, my master trusted me, and I couldn't." And he said, the master said that they told me about this. He said, and I'm sorry to part with Tom, but I must say, you ought to let him cover the whole balance and the debt. And I would, with you, Haley, and if you had any conscience. So what he's saying is, people was questioning Tom. Tom ran his, it's not a farm, a plantation. He trusted him with everything he did. He trusted him to go up north where slaves will be, where he was free. If he went to the freedom and still came back, that's a good slave. And when people questioned Tom and said, "Why didn't you run? You even got money. You got $500. You're gonna take that money and go right back down to your plantation, not your plantation, and give it to your master when you are here free. You could just go right across the border to Canada, like Josiah Henson did. You could do that and run and get your freedom and have money." But Tom owed his slave master, or if Tom felt as if he owed his slave master, because he was a good slave and a good Christian slave. And it wasn't wouldn't be right. And what Tom was telling those people that was scoffing at him, like, "Man, why didn't you make a break for it? You was right there. Nobody to stop you." "Because he trusts me." That was his reply. So when people sit up there and try to tell me that Josiah Henson is Uncle Tom, it tells me that you haven't read the book. So when I told the guy, I said, if you read even just the first chapter, you're going to see how these slave masters are talking about Tom and trying to sell Tom as he's a good Negro, a good obedient Negro that puts his slave master before his own freedom and legacy. Then you'll understand why it is something that derogatory for us to call you Uncle Tom in America. You're putting everything into your slave master above yourself. So when we talk about somebody in modern day times being an Uncle Tom, that is something that is saying you are putting the white man's burden, whatever you want to call it, the white man's um, laws and reasoning that's detrimental to you and your people. You're putting that before you. You're being so loyal. You're being a lapdog. Basically, that's what they're saying. You're being a lapdog. You're being loyal. And he can trust you. You're somebody that the man can trust. So now when I come and I'm talking to this guy and I'm letting him know that, now he got upset because he's in a position where he hasn't read the book. It's on social media, this conversation. I'm not trying to be condescending, not to that extent, but he felt threatened. So then it became all of the name calling and, all the stuff that he wants to do because I'm telling him this is what Uncle Tom is. This is who Uncle Tom was. What I'm gonna say is because he's a fictional character. He didn't die. He didn't do. He never really existed. He existed in the book. He's a fabricated, fictional character based upon someone else. So my thing is now when I'm hearing all these people that's talking about who Tom was, and black people don't know Josiah Henson and all these things like that. Um, This is not I mean, Tom, you could say he has some good characteristics. You could say, yeah, he was trustworthy. But I mean, to me, I don't owe trust to people that are mistreating my people. I owe you nothing. That's just like saying a job and I get paid, and I can't even say that because you're not getting paid good enough because you don't have your freedom. I don't care how well When we talk about things in the Black community, it's another term we use. We say house Negroes. And I don't even put house Negroes in the same category as an Uncle Tom, because a house Negro was born into these circumstances where they're uh, treated or given leeway, more leeway than others. And so they don't see the struggle the same as someone else that hasn't been given or afforded these luxuries that some of these house Negroes have. They have it better than others. So maybe their perspectives are different. And that's how it could be in the Black community. People that are that have come up in a good community, and you know, they haven't been through the struggles that some of the rest of us have been. We have a different mindset. You know, some of them people like, well, the police officers are good because that's what you have experienced, but you're not looking at how it is for the rest of us. Therefore, your perspective is slanted. So that's a house Negro type mentality, because you haven't had things happen to you personally. So now you're feeling a little more affiliated with the naysayers of what's happening in our community. You're starting to believe in the American dream. You believe that, hey, if we do the right things, or if y'all would act right, you start to say things like that, or you stop black on black crime and things like that. You start to say things like that. So so to me, I don't put you in the same category. The category of an Uncle Tom is those that see what's happening and know what's happening and understand what's happening, and you are loyal to someone else over your own people. That is what an Uncle Tom is. And the people of the era um in history, they saw Uncle Tom like in the Black community. They didn't see Uncle Tom in any kind of, oh, he's what Harriet was trying to um paint a picture of. She was doing it for a reason. She wanted white people to have compassion for the runaway slaves. We like I'm gonna say James Weldon Johnson. He's a prominent figure in the Harlem Renaissance, and what he said, he expressed a anti uh, uh, pathetic opinion on the autobiography of in his autobiography about Uncle Tom and how Harriet Beecher Stowe created the character. He said, for my part, I never was an admirer of Uncle Tom. He said, nor his type of goodness. It's a good slave. He said, but I believe that there were lots of good old Negroes as foolish, good as he was. Like it was some good, and that's crazy that I'm reading that, because I had a friend of mine, we was having this conversation, and he basically was saying that that's a good, like, you know, a lot of us don't understand the circumstances and the pressure that we was coming up under being slaves. I didn't agree with him, but I was listening to what he was saying. And yeah, you're a good slave. Basically, it's something that you consider a good slave and a bad slave. Malcolm X he did a speech about the field Negro and the house Negro. You know, how endearing the house Negro was to his master because of his conditions. Now, Malcolm was a little more harsh on the house Negro than probably I would be. Then like I said, I understand, because I think some of our politicians are house Negroes. They go to school, they was able to go to college. They have this mindset that if you do the right thing and you do right by people, they will love you. If you do right by these people, they will love you, despite everything that you're watching in the streets, about everything you're learning in our history. You believe that you can change the beast that exists in this country. To me, that's house Negro stuff, because many times those that think like that are the ones that do go to college. You know, hey, I've been accepted here. I'm the first to do this. So it's like you get patted on the head and you believe that these people love you to a point that everything else that's happening to our community it's on our doing, or we can change that if we just act a certain way, or believe a certain way. And I think some of our, like, Harris, some of these, like when she says no, it's no racism. I believe that they believe American, the American dream is a real thing for all people, and maybe that's what their road has taught them. Maybe that's what their travels have taught them. They don't see America in differently than a lot of white people may see America. A lot of white people can't, they don't understand what it is that we go through on a day-to-day basis, or things that we have been through and continue to go through, the atrocities. And somehow I don't understand how people can disregard what's right before your eyes. And maybe they think that, hey, this is just a couple of bad apples and things like this. But if you look at history, man, how many bad apples can it be in this country for centuries? It's befuddling to me how people can have that mindset. But like I said, people come up in a different environment. Sometimes they didn't travel the same road as others. Sometimes you were born and you were let in the house, and so you ate better, you seen better, you had better living conditions, and so that shapes your mind. And those that's in the field, that's been working in the field since they was able to stand, they have a different mindset. They was treated differently, so their mindset of this country is different. That's the difference to me in the house Negro and the field Negro. Now, Uncle Tom to me is a good slave, an obedient slave, content to be a slave even when freedom is at his door, at his it within his grasp. He thinks he owes even his own freedom to his slave master. So that's the difference between Josiah Henson and Tom. And all it takes is for you. Now, when Harriet said that she was inspired to write Uncle Tom's character, when you say something is based on somebody, and I'm gonna give you an example. This is my argument. When just because something is based on someone or based on something doesn't mean that that's who that person is. When you talk about Bass Reeves, and those that don't know who Bass Reeves was, he was a lawman in the South, and he basically went into what they called the Indian Territory, which was Oklahoma. Oklahoma was not part of the United States at that time. It was an Indian territory agreed upon. A lot of the bad guys, or the fugitives from the law, they're going to the native the Indian territory to evade the law. Bass Reeves would go into the Indian territory. That was a place that many lawmen didn't want to go. Bass Reeves was what many say the Lone Ranger character was based upon. If you look at the Lone Ranger and you look at Bass Reeves, those are two totally different people. The Lone Ranger is white. Bass Reeves was a black man. The Lone Ranger, he put on a black mask. And what happened with the Lone Ranger, the stories of the Lone Ranger, it was someone that was in prison and in Detroit, I believe. And he was telling the story of this fearless lawman in the South. Now, the thing about the North, the West, they love the stories of the Wild West, because they're so far away from that stuff. So they got this stuff happening in modern time, and it's like these are like it's folklore, it's heroes, it's modern day things happening. And it's like these are legends and stories. So you have vast excuse me, you have like Bat Masterson and people like that, um, Buffalo Bill, wow, Bill, all these people that's able to go up north and become celebrities because of their legend in the South. So the North was eating that stuff up. So this guy goes to prison. He tells them of this story of this fearless lawman that's goes into Indian territory, and he has a Indian scout with him, and he's telling them this guy is doing all these things, and this the legend is tremendous and everything like that. So when someone hears this, they create a radio show about this fearless lawman, and they call him the Lone Ranger, which was based on Bass Reeves. The Lone Ranger, when it becomes a TV show, he you wouldn't know he was a black person, or it was based on a black person. Being based upon something or someone means nothing when you're talking about a fictional character. They're using that person's storyline to create someone different. This is what Harriet did with Josiah Henson's story in creating her own fictional character that has nothing to do with him other than the idea. So now you got all these people online talking about, yeah, um, you know, don't call people Uncle Tom because Uncle Tom was actually, he did this and he did this. No, Josiah did those things. Uncle Tom was an obedient slave master that was so good, and that it was to his own detriment. He had no good intentions for himself. He was a loyal lapdog. This is my interpretation of Uncle Tom. Now he did, hey, he didn't give up the ladies and he sacrificed his life, but that's beside the point to me. When you're a good slave and your slave owners are saying how good of a slave you are, how loyal of a slave you are, how trustworthy of a slave you are. He was the liaison when they wanted things done on the plantation, they would tell Tom to go tell the slaves. So when someone is calling someone else a Uncle Tom, this is what they're talking about. You're a liaison between a white man and black people. You're the one that they want to give the message out to because we're hearing it coming from one of us. That's not really one of us. When you have these black leaders or whomever, and they want to go to Ferguson and tell people, don't do this, just march like this and things like that. And then to me, they may call you Uncle Tom because you're coming there with a message from the white man. This is how I see that. So when people are talking about, um, oh, these black people, they don't understand and they don't know. This is what I'm submitting to you. When you see these videos, don't buy into it. If you're not reading the information, if it's in the book, read the book. That's what I'm getting at with that. Um, and the thing is, this is the clever thing about all of this. I believe that it's purposely done, the misinformation by these Uncle Toms. We got modern day Uncle Toms. We've had Uncle Toms in our society since we've been here. I believe we've had Uncle Toms that snitched on Nat Turner. Being loyal to the slave owners and going against your own. And I believe that people will label them Uncle Tom because sometime Uncle Tom will see those that are trying to uprise as being a negative, and that's something that we shouldn't be doing. They're more loyal, and what Malcolm X would say, those he called them house Negroes. I don't believe that all of those was house Negroes. Some of those Negroes that did this was in the field. And those are the ones that are more loyal to the slave master than they are to their own kind. We see those type of people here in our jobs. They'll go and you'll talk to them. You'll think they're one of you, and you're talking about things that's happening and which you're not content with at the job. And they'll turn around and go tell, the supervisors, the managers, the people in higher up management, what's being said and who's agitating things. This is what I consider Uncle Toms. Those that's more loyal to the establishment than they are to those that look like you. And so, can we blame people that's like that? I don't. I just not a blame, but I understand we have certain celebrities that acts like Uncle Toms. We have Jason Whitlocks and Stephen A's, and they try to say the things that's going to make them more endearing to the powers that be, to white America. They would constantly attack us. They will constantly criticize us. And there's nothing wrong with being critical of us as long as you are just and you're being critical of them. What's happening in this country now, we have a lot of these black people that love Trump, and the things that's come out lately, or the things that's been coming out in the Epstein file, things like that, they are not wanting to engage in those type of conversations. They are not saying, okay, the hell with my affiliation. I just want to know what's going on. I want to know who's in the Epstein files. I want whether Trump is in it or not. And I believe most of Black America, or most people, period, whether you're liberal or whatever, most of people that love, I'm gonna say, even if you love Obama, you want to know who's in the files, even if he's in there. It doesn't matter. Those things supersede your affiliation with a party and things like that. But what we're seeing is a lot of these black people, a lot of these Toms, they are so attached to Trump and his party, and wanting to be against us, that they don't want to know. And that's what the problem is. We have many Uncle Toms that's or in the black community. I'm gonna say, and some of them, they don't want to be in the black community. I put it like that. Some of them, they are making it evident that they don't want to be in the black community. They're not saying it outright, but it's evident to me. Some of them are so affiliated with not being black that they go against everything that is black, and they constantly criticizing the black community, but they won't criticize right and wrong. So that's what my point and my perspective was. And that's why I thought it was something I wanted to get out. I wanted to filter out. I've been having this conversation the last couple of weeks or so about Uncle Tom and Josiah Henson and all of this stuff like that. And my point is, we have to understand what we're dealing with, who we're dealing with. How do we deal with our own? How do we deal with those that's Uncle Toms in our community? How do we deal with Uncle Toms that's on a platform, or part of a newscast, or part of a show? You know, those people that they are using to get information, to so a black person is the one that's saying it. We have seen this on Fox on numerous occasions, especially when Obama was in office. They were using Stacey Dash. They were using Al Sharpton. They were using this black sheriff. They wanted black faces to put out their information, because so it won't be one of them saying it. That is, yeah, it's a black person saying it. See, it's not just us. We're not just biased. And this is what they use these Uncle Toms to do. And then when they don't need them anymore, they get rid of them. I'm gonna read a couple of these comments. I appreciate everyone that showed up. Um, I'm gonna read. Let me see. Sharon Simpson Anderson. She said, "Greetings. I appreciate that." Sakina. She said, "Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, sister." And Sharon Simpson Anderson said, "I read that book decades ago. I need to reread it." And Teresa said, "100%. I appreciate that." She also said, "They forgot that they are black until the situation occurs that reminds them." And this is the situation that we have to look at with them, when something reminds them that they're black. And now they want to come back. And now it's like, do we accept them back? To me, from the start, when they start acting or talking a certain way, we shouldn't even, we should turn our backs on them. We should turn our backs on any kind of Toms and whatnot. Um, the Stacey Dashes, I'm gonna say that because they used her on Fox. And the thing is, she's talking like nobody cares about her political perspective. All they care about her is being a black face saying some things that the white people want to hear at that time. So now she gets a job on Fox. Now, when Obama's not in office anymore, they don't have that. They don't need that black face to say these type of things. So what happens to her? What happened to Al Sharpton? They got rid of them. You rarely see. Only time they need your black face as a liaison to black people to say, or for other people not to say that they're being racist or whatever, is because they get a black face to say, a black mouthpiece to say the things that they once said on the air. And it does them um it does them a virtue because of they getting a black person to say it. So it makes them not seem as if they're just white, because they have all of their normal people on Fox and all these places. They all, the women are all the same. They look the same, you know, white, blonde, blonde hair, and they them saying things about the black community has no weight to it. When they get a black person to say it, it has weight. And this is what happens with Uncle Tom. The slave masters would use him to talk to the slaves. If we do it, they're gonna be, settle them down, Tom. Go talk to them, talk sense into them, settle them down. And this is what Uncle Tom was in the book. And this is why that's a detrimental character. It's a shallow character. Um, that many of our leaders and things like that, they saw right through it. They didn't think that she did such a great job in creating the story in the book. James Baldwin said things about it. He rejected the character altogether, and he talked about how shallow the character was. But we seem to want to parade this character, and I'm saying not the ones that see it as detrimental. Some people are trying to resurrect and resuscitate this character as being something different than what he was. And that's because they are the ones that are labeled Toms. And I believe what's happening is some of those same people, that may not be their intentions, but they don't understand what they're doing. They're buying into that narrative. And so the ones that's also out there making these videos about black people, they're actually being condescending. They're the ones that's looking for reasons to make themselves seem smarter than the black community. See, y'all do this, and this is what y'all don't know, and things like this. Instead of going out there tackling our real issues, you're trying to constantly put us down for what we do and what we understand and how we feel. So I think a certain amount of the people that's doing that are those that has fallen victim to that. And the originals, I think the original people that want to use that Josiah Henson and Uncle Tom comparison is those that are labeled as Uncle Toms. So this is what I think is happening, and this is why I think it's happening. So to me, I just want us to recognize that and recognize what's happening. So when you hear people talk about it, Uncle Tom is going to be an Uncle Tom. I think Uncle Toms are something that we have to deal with. We have to understand what it is that we need to do, how we need to treat these people that's detrimental to our community. I think we have to deal with also the house Negroes and understand the house Negroes, how we need to deal with them. People ask me about certain people and personnel, and I say this: I believe that some of them actually believe in what they're doing. I think a lot of them believe in America in the way that they believe in America. And that's from their perspective. I believe I could put the Obamas in that category, or the Kamala Harris's in that category. I believe that they do believe in the American dream, and that just like I could say Martin Luther King believed in American dream. I believe he believed in everything that he was doing up until a point that it was shown to him that it wasn't what he thought it was. And some people, that hasn't been shown to them that it isn't what they think it is. And I don't knock them for that. I believe that they're sincere in what they believe and what they do. So when people ask me about certain candidates and what I think about them, I tell them I think that they're sincere in what they believe. And some of them I don't believe that they are. Some of them I believe that they are Uncle Toms. and they're about themselves. And that's what I wanted to get off my chest today. I appreciate everyone that showed up. I appreciate y'all bearing with me, um, trying to make it through this show. Um, Hopefully, I have a better show for y'all next week. This is Kevin Lewis on the Blueprint. Peace.